Hi, my name is Marci Otero, and my boys Andrew and Jeff and I have been attending Horizons Community Church for 12 years now. I spoke to my husband Tim about going to the service and mentioned to him that it was held at Blaine High School, and he was all for that. He graduated from Blaine and was kind of excited to see what it would be like. So as a family, we went to this Easter service and absolutely loved it. The music was great, the message was awesome. The desire to go back to Horizons was always there, and weeks turned into months. Christmas has passed, and then tragedy struck. On the morning of January 8th of 1999, our lives changed forever. My husband had passed away during the night working on his truck out in the garage, and I found him. And after I called 911, I sat on the cold cement floor, crying and in shock, hanging on to him until help arrived. And for the first time in my life, I heard God speak to me. He said, "Marci, I am and I will be with you." I knew through this that somehow we were going to be okay. And some of the first people that were there with us that morning was the same couple that invited us to Horizons that Easter Sunday before. And they held us, they prayed with us. They just gave us the love of God that we needed right there at that moment. We needed the love of God, we needed His strength, we needed people to surround us, to support us. It was a tough time. And so we began coming back to Horizons in February of that year, and we've been coming ever since. God was becoming more and more real in my life, and I knew it was time that I surrender completely to Him. 3.5 years later of dedicating my life to God, to my family, to the work that He had begun in me, I came to the point for the first time in my life to a place I'd never been before, and that was total contentment. Little did I know that it isn't enough for God for you to be just content. He wants to keep you moving, and I've got the footprints in my behind to prove it. He had someone behind the curtain that He was waiting for me to meet. So a few more kicks in the behind, and the ball started rolling. I brought Matt up here on Memorial Weekend of 2007 and ran him through the gauntlet of our Horizons family and had him meet key people in my life to get their approval. And it all worked out, and God started opening doors that only He could have opened in a time frame that only He could have made happen. My name is Marci Otero. My husband is Matt Otero. My sons are Andrew and Jeff. And our lives are forever changed because someone invited us to Horizons Community Church.
Hi, my name is Mike Birdall, and this is my story. I was brought up in a Christian home, attended church as a youth, went to church infrequently as an adult, and my wife got really frustrated. She's a lot stronger in her faith than myself, and she gave me an ultimatum and said, "You need to find a church." My son, who's 14, came to me and said, "Why don't we try Eli's church?" Eli's is Paul and Mary Jo Valder's son. All right, well, let's try Horizons. And so middle of October of 2010, we came to Horizons. What I am now is not what I used to be. You know, I quit drinking, and that led me into exercise, and I started exercising, riding bike, and I lost 115 pounds. You know, became more active, and even though there was, you know, all this good here, I've lost weight and I'm sober. I've been sober now for 3 years. Even coming to church with all this good, I still wasn't happy. It came to me, we had been talking in church and going through the Me I Wanna Be book. And that book really, I loved it. I thought it was just great, and I breezed through it. I read it just in a day and a half. I couldn't put it down. And as we're going back and redoing it through church and through the sermons and stuff, Jimmy had mentioned that the Welcome to the Revolution book being a good book for new Christians, and although I didn't consider myself a new Christian, I was kind of recognizing that I am. And I was like, well, wait a minute, maybe some of this unhappiness you're feeling, and I want to stress, I had no reason to be unhappy. I had just lost 115 pounds. I was sober for 3 years. I have a great house. I've got a wonderful wife. My kids are unbelievable, and I should be happy, and I'm not. I'm feeling something empty. And at that point I thought, well, I'll pray. I'll ask God. And at that point I did. I asked God for help. No sooner had I said that, it was a cloudy day, and I'm sitting at this little park, right on the Mississippi River in Brooklyn Park, and the clouds opened up, the sun shone down on me, and I stepped out of the car, and I felt like this warmth that I hadn't felt in forever. It was like being in a warm shower, but it's 18 degrees out, and there's a wind blowing, and it's winter in Minnesota. We don't feel like that, and I broke down right there. I felt right there at that moment that was God touching me, that He was hearing my prayer. And the funniest thing about it was I called my wife. I was in tears, and I called her to tell her, what had happened, and what do you think this is? What do you think this feel? What's happened to me? What do you think? Am I nuts? What? And she said, Mike, you don't know how long I have been praying to God for this to happen to you. And in God helping me, answering my prayer, He not only answered my prayer, but my wife's. And in telling my story to my father, He'd also been praying for me. And so in answering my prayer, He answered my wife's and my father's prayer also, that I would find God. And it's wonderful. I thank Horizons Church for that. If Paul and Mary Jo hadn't invited Tyler to church, I might never have come here, and I might never have thanked God. I thank my wife and my father for praying for me, but I really thank God for having these people work to help me find Him. That's really the best thing.